Welcome to the Illinois Perinatal Quality Collaborative Labor Management Support e-modules. These e-modules were made as a resource to support hospital implementation of the ILPQC Promoting Vaginal Birth, or PVB, initiative. The aim of the PVB initiative is for 70% of Illinois hospitals to be at or below the Healthy People 2030 goal of 23.6% cesarean delivery rate among NTSV, or nulliparous term singleton and vertex births, by December 31st, 2022. Our goals include increasing the percent of C-sections among NTSV births that meet ACOG SMFM criteria for cesarean, as well as educating physicians, midwives, and nurses on ACOG and SMFM criteria for cesarean, including labor management strategies. Hospital quality improvement teams participating in the PVB initiative are working on 5 key strategies to reduce cesareans among NTSV births, including labor management support. ILPQC partnered with Jessica Brumley, the co-creator of the Florida Perinatal Quality Collaborative, or FPQC, labor support workshops, completed by over 400 nurses and providers in Florida as part of FPQC's Promoting Primary Vaginal Deliveries, or PROVIDE initiative. Jessica is Director of Midwifery at the University of South Florida Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, where she leads a team of 14 midwives and advanced practice nurses. She also serves as an advisor on the FPQC PROVIDE initiative. In August and September of 2021, Jessica and ILPQC worked together to offer 2 live virtual labor management support courses for nurses and providers in Illinois. These sessions were recorded and broken down by topic into this collection of 14 e-modules ranging from 6 to 21 minutes each. We are excited to share them with you. Now I will turn it over to Jessica.
So now I'd like to go through some of the strategies that I mentioned before, right? These are evidence-based strategies. We know continuous labor support it is, can reduce cesarean section rates, and that this should be the standard of care for all laboring people. We often think about this in terms of, when they're staying in active labor, but not having a support person in early labor can frequently be a reason why patients come into the hospital so early. And so this is really can be thought of as a strategy for going home in late in labor. Support persons can include midwives, doulas, nurses, partners, family members, friends, and when at home, it's more likely, obviously, to be family members and friends, as well as if they have a doula. A1 has a position statement on continuous labor support, and they assert that continuous labor support from an RN is critical to achieve improved birth outcomes. And they also recognize that childbirth education and doula services contribute to the woman's preparation for and support during childbirth. Hard to imagine that this was brand new when I put this in my slide in 2018. And additionally, this position statement states that RNs should help the woman to cope with labor, and support during early labor builds the woman's confidence and helps her to establish realistic expectations. I mean, this is why we go into the work, right? Is to really be present, with our patients. Nobody goes into this work to do more charting, right? Or to look at more monitors. This is what gives us the reward, I think. So we know that labor and delivery nurses have increased feelings of job satisfaction when they're able to provide support to laboring women rather than just tending to those technical aspects of a birth. And that approach is to limit intervention during labor and birth. Committee opinion that I mentioned before also cites that evidence suggests that in addition to regular nursing care, continuous one-to-one emotional support is associated with improved outcomes for women in labor. And for those of you who maybe are unfamiliar, the Cochrane reviews is really like a database that conducts these analyses of all of the evidence available on a particular topic. And so their review of continuous labor support during childbirth demonstrated that there's a decreased risk of cesarean birth if you have that continuous labor support. Another great resource that if you're not familiar with, I would jot down is Evidencebasebirthcom. And the founder of Evidence-Based Birth is Rebecca Decker. She's a PhD prepared nurse who provides reviews on the evidence surrounding birth-related topics. And this is her conceptual model of continuous labor support. And so you can see that the provision of continuous labor support leads to increased mobility, increased self-esteem, decreased pain, and decreased anxiety, which all lead to shorter labors, fewer epidurals, no need for extra Pitocin, and overall better outcomes and higher satisfaction. But we know just how busy it is. Number one, our labor and delivery nurses are not at home with our patients. And I don't know about your hospitals, but in my hospital, rarely do you really get to be one-to-one with the patient. And at the very least, you're also concerned about the fetal well-being and the sort of those technical aspects. And so having a birth doula can really provide that true continuous continuous support. And birth doulas can provide physical, informational, and emotional support for patients before, during, and after labor. And so this is usually where we have a conversation about if people have worked with doulas before and what their experiences have been with doulas. Definitely feel free to add anything in the chat as far as experiences that you may have had. We have great relationships with the doulas in our community, and even have a grant-funded program to provide free doula services to any person having a birth in a hospital in our county. And so we've really done a lot of outreach to our doula community to sort of support them being comfortable in our space and encourage patients to use doula services. Okay. So we know that when doulas are utilized in a way that allows them to function appropriately in their unique and integral role, they can simultaneously advocate for women and act as helpful allies to nurses and providers. But I think there are still some misconceptions about sort of the type of person, who has a doula. I sometimes hear that it's, oh, I want an unmedicated birth, so I'm getting a doula, or I really want a vaginal birth, so I'm getting a doula. But really, anyone who's having a birth can potentially benefit from a doula. I have patients who are having a planned scheduled cesarean section and really want to make sure they have, a doula there to help them sort of, navigate the process and support them, throughout their breastfeeding experience as well. And so I try and talk to all of my patients about the evidence that supports the use of doulas. And so I talked a little bit about the different kinds of support a doula or anyone providing continuous labor support can provide. I think most people think about the physical support a lot more, right? They think about the what we'll talk about a lot today, comfortable positions and massage and hot packs and all of that. But also there's that informational support, right? There's that support with shared decision making. Sometimes healthcare providers can get all up in their medical jargon, and a doula can help to sort of translate that a little bit for them. And probably the most overlooked sort of part of this is the emotional support. I find that many people are really surprised at how emotionally draining, right, labor and birth can be. And so that emotional support of encouragement and fear reduction and creating a calm environment can really be powerful. And so, we as a unit or a hospital can really think about what is it that we can do to help to facilitate doulas being, in our space, and to make it as much of a collegial environment as possible. That's something that we've been implementing as well. We had a doula open house, and we talked all about the services that we offer to our community, all about the resources available to our patients. We really wanted to make sure that all of our doulas were aware of all of the tools that we have and how we can welcome them. I've heard of some hospitals that created a welcome packet for any new doulas, and so in that packet they included information about the resources that they had available and some guidelines. I think working one-on-one, it's helpful for the nurse and the doula to sort of establish early on how they can work together and help to support this patient. Can I get her up to go to the bathroom? What about all the wires? Do you want me to call you with this or that or whatever? And there's really a lot of opportunity for two-way teaching as well. Oftentimes doulas may be individuals who are looking to pursue education in nursing or midwifery, and so the hospital-based providers can provide them education. And likewise, doulas have often been doing a lot of work on supporting unmedicated birth, position changes, and lots of tips and tricks that they can share with the nurses or nursing students. And so it can really go both ways. I'm glad to hear that lots of people are using doulas and meeting with them frequently. And in latent labor, over the phone, they can help to answer questions. They can help them make a decision about when to go to the hospital. They may be physically present in their home, or they may be meeting them at the hospital later. They can sort of help them create a calm and relaxed environment, and then refer to their care provider for additional questions or assistance as needed. So I find that my patients who have had access to a doula at home come in, and they come in active labor. Right there, it's like they're working at it by the time they get to us. We like to move it. I think that's the name of one of the later presentations, but definitely there are some significant benefits to movement in labor. Walking and being upright in the first stage of labor reduces the duration and decreases the risk of cesarean section and the need for epidural. And there don't seem to be any negative effects of this. And there was a little, meme or something I read one time, and it was a picture of a woman laying flat on her back on the monitor, and it said something like, "Oh, laying flat on my back feels so much better," said no laboring woman ever, right? Least comfortable position to be in labor for sure. So we want to keep them moving around. Do you have access to showers or tubs in your hospitals? I feel like that is a much more common thing these days, but not in all hospitals. And so particularly in early labor, I think addressing the fact that if you go home, you can be in your own shower, your own tub. If they haven't tried that already, certainly really comforting. We know that immersion in water during the first stage of labor significantly reduces the length of labor and the need for an epidural. And you can use a baby pool, a birth tub. You can use props in the tub if you need to. Some people will use like a pool noodle or a little cushion just to really get comfortable in there. Shower stools, really, kind of make it a comfortable space. Hydrotherapy is amazing. And hopefully we're not starving our patients. Oral nutrition in labor is safe. And the uterus is a muscle, and muscles need fuel to work. For so long, women were NPO in labor, nothing but ice chips, maybe, right? But the research that's been done on the nutritional, needs of in related to sports and really, right, labors like a marathon, has shown that taking in carbohydrates during exercise improves performance and protects against fatigue and ketosis. And we know first-time labors are long. We know they're difficult. When we compare it to a marathon all the time. And so we really should not be starving our patients in labor. And if you have a policy against eating in labor, it's just another reason for people to go home in early labor. But if they go home, what are they going to do? Right. So what tips do you have for them? I'd love to hear, what tips you maybe share with your patients. I try and tell patients, ignore your contractions until you can't anymore. Anything you can do to distract yourself, watch a movie, play a game. I personally was folding laundry in labor. So doing a little housework feels like, a really constructive thing. There's a midwife on my team who would tell patients to make a complicated soup, right? Peel and chop and cut and really kind of get into it. You'll have food when you get home. And it really distracts you from the contractions. Make sure that you have a support person with you. Try breathing and relaxation, massage, movement and position changes, hot and cold therapy, and making sure that they're staying hydrated and snacking for sure.